Happy New Year to you, and welcome back to Whistle of the Week. After a couple of weeks off for the holidays, we are back this week with the Generation Sopranino F. It's the only F that Generation makes. This time in the nickel barrel, and it also comes in the brass body with the red tip. I really enjoy messing around with this whistle. I have used it for harmony and recording. It works really well played in tandem with a C whistle because they harmonize great. I think after the D and the C whistle and then perhaps maybe the A whistle, the F is going to be the most useful in terms of playing popular music as well as possibly Celtic music and also fitting into an ensemble and harmonizing. It has a nice bright tone. It's got a little bit of raspiness. There's a little bit of disfigurement on the blade. There's no way you'll be able to see it on this camera. It has kind of a plucky, scratchy little tone at times, especially in the lower notes. And normally I would get irritated by that, I suppose, but I don't mind it in this whistle because it's so high and bright. The high notes at the top of the second octave can be shrill and possibly disturbing to dogs. Unlike the high G whistle, I can actually play this one somewhat comfortably. The finger spacing is a little tight, and I don't have the longest or the thickest fingers of anyone I've ever known, but they are a little sausagey, and I can handle this fairly well. I'm a 6 foot, 200-pound man, so it isn't necessarily a requirement that you be a child with child's hands to play this whistle. Whereas the G, it's going to be tough. It's fun to take the tunes that you would normally play on a D or a G whistle and play them the same way, same fingering, in a different key on, say, the F whistle, or to go lower with the A whistle or alto G whistle. Some people would argue that it doesn't matter what key you play a melody in. The melody is basically going to have the same feeling. And then other people would argue that because it's in a different key, it's going to have a different feeling and it's going to evoke a different response in the player or the listener. I'm not going to weigh in on this argument, at least not in this video. I just enjoy playing these whistles. As far as the pros go, I've already named most of them. I will say that Generations are fairly inexpensive. They are not difficult to find. You can probably buy them in a number of different ways online, and they're fairly easy to play. As for the cons of this whistle, they are pretty much the same as I've already described with Generation whistles in general. The quality control or consistency of Generation's output is widely varying, and it's kind of luck of the draw whether you're going to get an amazing whistle, a middle of the road whistle, or one that plays like absolute crap. It's really hard to say. You might get 3 or 4 decent ones and then get a crappy one and then get a great one. Fortunately, they're not super expensive and they're easy to find. Is it a good whistle for a beginner? Yes, I think so. I mean, I'd have to argue it should be maybe the 3rd or 4th whistle that somebody gets, mainly because a beginner really should start with either a D whistle, which plays in the key of D and G easily and is really accessible for traditional music, Irish music, folk music, that sort of thing. Whereas the C whistle is all the white keys on the piano, do, re, mi. It's that range, that scale that's familiar from the recorder and translates very easily to Twinkle Twinkle and all of those lullabies and nursery rhyme songs that everyone is familiar with. One or the other of those should be the first whistle a beginner gets, probably. For the 3rd or 4th whistle, the F is awesome because of its ability to harmonize with the other whistles. You can play around with those same tunes that you learned in other keys and play them exactly the same way, just same fingering. You're just playing them in F now instead of D or C, and kind of experience what they sound like. But for a beginner with perhaps smaller hands, this also might be more accessible. So it's not a bad idea and something that probably everyone should have in their toolkit. I'll admit I'm starting to regret that I decided on this open air recording format because there are so many loud trucks and ambulances and random noises that come through my neighborhood that are starting to drive me crazy. And sometimes I leave them in, sometimes I keep doing take after take after take. And then, of course, yelling obscenities. This was the Generation Sopranino F in the electroplated nickel body with the blue top. Thank you for coming back and watching again this week, and we'll see you next week for a completely different whistle.